Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and this is Tarisland. Now, this is an MMORPG, but this is a really unique feature to it. So you're going to have your standard MMO stuff. You've got your different classes like warriors who can do either tanks or DPS, mages, typically focus DPS, priests, healers, DPS. So you have your three main classes and roles when it comes to dungeons and raids. You got 9 different classes to pick from, 2 specializations in each one, like my warrior here can either go DPS with Wrathful or kind of sword and shield for more of a tank build, and you can swap that on the fly very easily. You got skill trees, you got progressions, you got mounts, you got fast travel all over the place. It is very feature rich so far from what I have seen, and the optimization between both the mobile platform, the way the button setup is, the ease of access of like where your thumbs are at, where things are, versus PC with window customization, UI, wherever you want it to be, and sizing. They really focused on making each platform play the way they should play, but with cross-play and cross-progression, you can have the experience either at home or on the go, which is kind of fantastic. And before I go any farther, I do want to say thank you to Level Infinite and also just Tarisland for sponsoring this video, so you guys are aware that it's sponsored. But I jumped in, I've put like 4 to 5 hours in. I'm already level 31, so I mean, I'm blowing through the quests and everything. The dungeons have been cool fights, struggled on a couple and died a few places. Dodge. But the nice thing is you can restart boss encounters, go at it again, and typically had some good success in there. The open world so far pretty easy to get around with fast travel, which is beneficial, but the challenge that they have going on right now through July is great for new players to jump in because, one, you have a chance to meet some cool people, build up maybe a clan or a team that you can try and speed run some of these dungeons and raids, but also chances to win some cool prizes. So let's go through some of the challenges, and then I'm going to give you guys gameplay of a dungeon so you can see both what it's like from a tank's perspective to see what's going on, and then also see some of the bosses and mechanics that are within dungeons. So first thing, the challenge. So you can actually enter for a chance to win some pretty cool prizes and then compete for some as well. So just by, sharing the event, following on Twitter, jump into the Discord, you get some entries. And these are for things like iPhone 15, PlayStation 5, Sony headphones, gift cards, along with just downloading the game and then clearing all of these elite dungeons. You get even more chances to win. So the more you play, the better off you're going to be. And the more you actually accomplish within the game, you're going to have more entries to go as well. So you've got everything from the Merfolk King, which is I think the first like level 30 raid that you're going to be able to jump into. If you're 1 through 100, you can get a special title plus some healing potions. And again, this is going to be like a raid race when it goes live on July 10th at basically 11:59 p.m. You can get specific titles showing you were the first team to kill them. Then you've got the Ancient Tree and the Synthesis Doctor and the Forest Gemini, and all of these open up on a couple days later. Archdruid, and finally you've got the Blight Dragon on July 31st as the finale. Both, depending on if you're 11 through 20 or 1 through 10 or 21 through 30, you've even got Amazon gift cards on the line. If you're in there, your Dragon Slayer rewards that you can get for titles. And then if you are the elite of elite and you win the raid race on the Blight Dragon, you're the first one to take it down. You can have the special title of Professional Player, which is kind of probably a Poke Esports, but a fun little title that we've got there. You can see full leaderboards of what's going on and active. You can register and log in with your character and see what each one's going to show. Time, servers, all of that stuff is here on the website for tracking. But again, just for playing and competing and trying to clear these dungeons and bosses as fast as possible. If you're the best and you're the fastest, then you actually have some really cool stuff going for you. But even just playing the game and progressing through it during this whole entire event, you have a chance to win some really cool stuff. So what I want to do now is I want to show you guys just examples of like dungeon combat, what I'm doing within dungeon, just some of the mechanics within a dungeon, and show you a couple of the boss fights as well. So let's jump into that so you guys can see what an example of a dungeon is actually like. And when you log in, you might see a screen like this. So this is the Dungeon Championship. You can sign up to participate. Cool rewards, as I showed you guys already before. The end game is against the Blight Dragon. But when you log in, log out, this is truly a legit world. You've got your town over here for what reminds me of kind of a Tauren city. You've got the big floating Black Temple of Doom up there for the story stuff that's going on. You've got your social aspects with your team, whether you're in a group or not. They may be offline. And you've also got an open world. Fast travel is really quick. So I mean, if I'm in Ancash Canyon and I want to go over to the outpost, it literally just takes me double clicking and I would teleport right over there in no time. Over here in Terrace Farm, you had some reputation stuff that I was working on for that area, and they were legit things. It was like Minesweeper, which was hilarious because they did it with like a potato farm. There was another one where it was like Sudoku for farming, so it was like helping out in a farm and doing reputation, but not just mindless go kill 6 skeletons and come back to me, and then go kill 8 ghouls and then come back to me. I appreciate it that there's more than just those type of quests in an MMO, and I have not been playing that long. I am level 30. As you guys can see here, you have the option of both my DPS class and my tank class. I'm set up for tank right now when it comes to stuff. I also have no worry of currency so far. I'm able to level up all my skills, and if I want to switch over to DPS, it literally takes that long. So if I want to go back to tank for running a dungeon, I can. No worries at all. I've got skills. I've got my skill tree to work through as you progress through different activities. And there's so much to this. You've got professions. And on top of that, as I said, when you come down here to gameplay, you've got dungeons. Normal difficulty, you'll start out checking out the Dim Cavern, Library of Chaos, then you get up to Camp Caroline. And this is going to have both normal and elite difficulty. Now you can see the elite difficulty is going to kind of look for a level 16 and gear of 30. This one is going to be level 24 it's looking for in gear of 50. And you can actually check and see where I stand. I've got 65. I clear everything, so I should be pretty safe. Across the board, I'm pretty safe on all of this stuff. It's not too bad for me yet. But if I jump up to this one and I check my attributes, my health's okay. Everything else looks a little bit low, barely there in gear score. So the boss requirements are going to be a bit of a challenge in there. And while I did technically unlock it, I think I've got to go do a quest to get there. But those are the dungeons that you can get into. Those are 5-man. Then you get into raids. So far, this is the only one I've done with the Shadow Witch. This is a full 10-man. Now, the cool thing about this is it's full up matchmaking, and you can actually establish your role. So if you jump into here, we go Elite Dungeon, and I can go to... You can see the guide, so you can look at mechanics and see what's going to go on in here if you want to get an idea, which is kind of crazy. They give you guides. There's some voice cues during the battle, which will tell you to leave. But also, if you don't have a team, you can either make a team if you have players that you want to invite, or you can just do straight up matchmaking. Choose your role for your character. If I want to play either one, I can, but I'm just going to go for a tank, just because that usually finds a group quicker for me. Damage might be a little bit slower because everybody always needs damage, but tanks and healers, a little harder to come by. That over there is a big barbarian. And look, we've got a healer set up. I've got some solid DPS. I might struggle to keep DPS from them, but we're going to jump in. And I just want to show you some of the basic mechanics and then show you a little bit of each of the bosses in here so you get an example of what one of these is like. So my goal as a tank is always going to be to pull aggro. Biggest thing you always want to do, healer is going to try and make sure and keep your tank alive. So if I can keep myself alive and they can keep me alive, then it's a team effort where the DPS is just able to do everything that they need to do to just delete basically all of the enemies that are on the field. So if you're a tank, your goal, again, is just to focus on hitting the big enemies, make sure nobody runs off like this, where I've got these guys over here, where I need to pull them off of the priest. And again, sometimes a priest could be so strong in healing that they may pull aggro, but that's where your taunts and everything will come in, and any damage that you can do to basically keep the focus on you and nobody else. That's your goal as a tank. And if you're a DPS player, again, just try and be wary that you could be pulling aggro when you don't need to be. So I'm going to progress forward to like the next boss and show you guys a couple of the cool encounters and a couple of the mechanics just in this first one. So let me jump ahead. All right, so when we head up this ramp, we've actually got our first kind of mini boss here for mechanics. So he's going to have decent sized health pool. I'm going to go in first to pull aggro. And you can see these doors on either side. What's going to happen out of those is you've got, for one, telegraphed attacks. So you want to watch out for those. So it is a bit more of an active battlefield. But the other thing you also want to watch when those doors come open, it's going to give you a prompt and say, hey, you need to make sure and take care of those. And they're basically mine carts, and we need to hit the switches. So we need to pull him back a little bit. So we're actually a little farther away from him a little bit, but also farther back here, so we're closer to the doors to move them. And depending on the players, they're standing over there. You might check that side depending on what door it comes out of. So it looks like we're going to get one on the right. So if we come over here, we need to make sure we hit this switch. Toggle the switch and you can see the actual track move. Now I need to go back to making sure I pull aggro. And that's going to send the troops that are on that little cart, instead of jumping into the battle with us, it's going to send those off the edge and you don't have to worry about them. So if you can manage the battlefield and then the boss mechanics, you can make your battles a little bit easier. And if you're going for a speedrun challenge, that's kind of how this is going to go. So let me beat this guy and move forward. I'll show you the next one. Now, one cool thing in between encounters, and as I said, some of those like quests actually had me playing like mini games that were better than I've usually seen. Even traversing between sections of a dungeon, you've got little activities where you kind of got to be awake. It's not just mindless in here. You got to approach the bomb, so it's going to be like an old school like racing game where you got to like dodge the bomb side to side, move your mini cart back and forth and make sure you dodge. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but I just appreciate the fact that it's actually something kind of cool, not difficult, but just enough to keep you awake and active as you move to the next encounter. And then when everybody gets up here and ready, make sure everybody's here. I think we're missing one. There we go. So I'm going to go up and try and pull the aggro again. So my job is to run in, pull as much aggro as I can. The AoEs are a nice way to do that. And then focus the captain with the bigger items that I can for DPS. And then we're going to work up to our next mini-boss. Alright, so the next mini-boss is Red Pike. Now, this is going to be a bit more of an active battle just because we've got one area of effect things like that spire in the corner. So that spinning fire spike is definitely something we all want to avoid. So I got to make sure and try and move the boss in a direction that's going to help that. Hopefully they kind of get it. Also, watch out for those fire shots on the ground. So it's always trying to be aware of the ground effects and the bigger shots coming in. This one we actually have to switch targets and focus on a different actual attack. And also being out of the way of that giant line of fire attack is good because that thing hits for thousands of damage. So that's a big one I do want to avoid. And also making sure we stop the ammo replenishment as much as we can. So there you go. And again, now you've got two of those little fire spires on the ground. Big spinning attack, so make sure, and it moves, so you want to make sure you're moving. Staying out of range. I got to make sure I'm close enough to jump back in. Steal aggro back. And again, now we've got a triple spire going on. So we got to be a lot more aware of the battlefield. So these get a little crazy, so now I'm going to jump ahead to the final boss and show you what that looks like. Alright, so now we come up to the final boss of this dungeon, and you've got multiple tiers to this one. So not only the fact, pretty sizable health bar that we got to work with, we're going to have an AoE kind of spinning attack with kind of an inner and outer ring. Also, when the boss vanishes, we're going to have spinning kind of blades that will go around and kind of keep us busy for a while. So I'm just going to pop most things that I got going on for cooldowns. And that's kind of that attack. If you can shield through it or power through it, you could probably get some good damage in. But if you prefer to dodge on out, it's not a bad way to play a little bit more active. Depending on our DPS, we might get that first ninja kind of like flying blade section of this thing here shortly, I think. And also just those jumps, especially as it goes between characters. If you get knocked over and stunned, especially if it's like a healer at a crucial moment, that can be tough. So these are the spinning blades. And you'll see the lines coming off of them, and they're going to fly in the direction of those lines. So not standing where those lines are, but also making sure like you're going to not get hit too bad, not too far from your healer, trying not to get tagged too much. Gets a little spicy depending on how low the health is and how your healer's doing. So I've had some runs in here go pretty rough. I probably will put a few deaths in there where things don't go great. And then when he comes back, my goal is to pull that aggro right away. So again, throw everything I can. Honestly, just a full taunt is a good thing to do. So we're going to wrap this thing up, and then I'll have a couple things to say at the end about kind of the end screen. Alright, final stand here. We'll just unload everything we got on him. Going to go down probably pretty quick for DPS, just doing everything they can. And we got him. Alright, so this is where you're actually kind of looking for. So damage taken, you can actually see if somebody's putting out a lot of DPS, then they're going to be definitely somebody if you want to friend them, but also compare their level 2, really high DPS, but in comparison, really big DPS. So maybe somebody you might want to add as a friend request. And then if you got a solid healer putting out good healing, you stayed alive the whole time, even for that low level, that's probably worth a friend request as well. Got an A rating, time of 12:48, and this is where your times are going to be. How fast can you get through dungeons like this right here? And that's the big crucial point of what you're going to be doing for those dungeon speedruns. And as you level up, you can use these as practice, meet some friends, try and find some people, and compete for some really cool prizes. So let's get back outside and we will wrap this up. So for a free-to-play MMORPG with 9 classes, specializations, dungeons, raid, crossplay, on mobile and everything else as well, on top of kind of the character depth that I've seen so far between your inscribed stones and all of the skill trees that you can work through for all of the different characters, and then a pretty sizable world with a bunch of fast travel. Even if the world is like jumping around pretty quick, fast travel being everywhere, and mounts as well that you basically get for free, and I haven't had to pay for a dime. So you got nothing to lose. If you haven't scratched the MMO itch in a while, or you haven't tried one of these out before, I recommend checking this one out for free because you got very little to lose, and you've also got that challenge coming up for those dungeons. Get a cool team together, you might win some awesome stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will be doing lots of coverage over lots of things coming up, so please make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell, and again, thank you very much for the sponsor of this video. So if you guys enjoyed what you saw, download Tarisland, iOS, Google Play, or on PC. Check it out, and hope you guys have a great time.